Good evening. Here is the second block for the block of the month, the Christmas runner, and it is February's block number 2. And today we are going to be doing the candle trio. So one little thing, quite a straightforward block, but we have something a little bit different with our candle makeup of the block. So what do we need? We need pieces for the candle. We need sashing strips that go in between the candles. We need a couple of 2.5-inch square background blocks, and we need the candle flame, which consists of a 1 3/4-inch square plus two 2.5-inch squares which have been cut diagonally once. So they would have started as a square like that, cut in half, and now we have 4 triangles. So where do we start? Let's start with our flame blocks. So with our square here, we are going to place a triangle. So if we place a triangle right side up, we can then place the square right side down and center that along the long edge of the triangle, so that there's a little bit, an equal piece either side. So what we could do is to find that center, fold our square in half, make a little crease for the halfway point, and then fold the triangle in half and find the halfway point, make a little crease, and then place our square and align those 2 marks. That will give us the triangle is directly in half in the center point along the seam. So we'll just stitch across there. So we only need to stitch the sides of the square at this particular point. So align that edge and stitch along that edge. We can then just fold back and finger press along that seam so that we can do the same, just making sure it's the right way up. So again, triangle right side up with the long edge there, and this time I'll guesstimate, and the more accurate you are the better, but I can see that's directly in the center. So again, we will pop that underneath the needle and stitch across. So now we just need to press both of those. Let's get rid of those little snips of thread. Press them both back so that we have a nicely pressed, whoops, there we are, nicely pressed block. So it is like that at the moment. Now I find it easiest to now trim those triangle or those little dog ears back so that they make a straight edge there and also a straight edge there. So we're just clipping it in line with the edges of the square. So we're then going to take the remaining 2 triangles, and again right side up, and we can pop it that way, and then I'm going to put one of the sides which is without one of the 2 remaining sides, place those edges together, right sides together there, and this time we'll start right from that background fabric and stitch across the whole way across that background fabric, because that's holding the whole piece together. So we'll flip that up, and then we can just finger press that back, and then we're going to do exactly the same with our other piece. There we are. So right side facing up, candle fabric facing down, and align that onto that long edge of the triangle, and again starting on the background fabric, aligning that edge at the right and stitching the whole way across. Then all we're going to do is press that back so that we have what is called a square on point, and let's just press that. Okay, so at the minute, this is what we have. We have a square with that triangle on point. Don't need to trim these off yet because we're now going to trim this block down to a 2.5 inch square. So if you look for your 2.5 inch grid on your ruler, and I'm looking at my 2.5 inch lines, and I am centering. There's plenty of space the whole way round. I made it this size so that it would give you ample leeway, and you won't be trimming off your points. But that looks good in the centre to me, but we can trim as we go. So I'm going to trim to the right and across the top. And I'm going to turn this block 180 degrees, line up my 2.5 at the top and the bottom, and I'm just looking to see that I've got the same distance from this point here and here, but actually it's a little bit too far over, so I'm just moving that to centre it, and I'm moving that up a little bit as well, just so that we can try and get that in the absolute centre of the block. So I've just trimmed that again. I'm just trimming it twice this time so that we can get this square in the centre. So lining up 2.5 inches, that looks about right. So trim across there, and I moved that then. So just hold that firmly and trim across there. So now we have a 2.5 inch square within a square. So you need to make 3 of these, and I have already made 2 more so that I have got 3. Now we're going to form the candles, which in actual fact this is pretty simple. So let's just move that out of the way. So we have, with our candles, we have 2 which are 4.5 inches long, and we have 1 that is 6.5. The 6.5, you don't have to have it in the middle, but I've got my larger one in the middle, and we're going to have 1 flame at the top of each candle. So let's start with this one here, which is one of the short ones, and we're going to place our flame right sides together, line up those edges at the top. There is my candle piece, right sides together, and we will just stitch across that short edge. So, and as I said, I've made the measurements so that there is no problem with cutting that point off. So we can then fold that back, and we have our flame. But we also need, with the shorter ones, to have our 2.5 inch square at the top. So we're going to put that right sides together and just align that edge like so, pop it under the machine and stitch across. How easy was that? So again, we can press that in a moment, but I'll just nail press that there. So there's our number 1 candle. We can do another one in exactly the same way. Our flame at the top, right sides together. Just align that edge, and all the edges in fact, but that top edge in particular. And we are doing our 1/4 inch seam allowance the whole way through this block. There we are, and then I'm just folding that under there. So there's our first piece, and then we need to put our, let's make sure it's the right way, our 2.5 inch square at the top, right sides together, and align that edge. And because we've trimmed this, our pieces are going to fit perfectly. So there is our there is our second candle, and we can just finger press that back there. So 1 and 2 of the short candles, and then for the larger candle we only need to put the flame at the top. So we'll align those short edges like so. Take it to the needle and stitch across that seam there. Okay, now these candles should now be all the same height. Ooh, look, thereabouts. There we go. And that one there. So all we need to do now to finish our block, I told you it was nice and straightforward, is we need to put our sashing strips in between. So what we'll do is we'll start from this side and we will place that right sides together. Now this strip should fit, or rather our block should fit. I'm going to move that out of the way. Should fit because this is 8.5 inches long. So our block should fit that. So let's just align that edge. I like to stitch from the reverse, then I can see which way the seams are going. And if we then just pull that end here so that it fits, we can pull those over and I'm just holding my finger down on that seam and keeping those edges aligned all the way to the end. Okay, so there is our first seam done, and we can just finger press that along there. And then next one we have is our, is our long. So we've got our long candle here. So we're going to place that right sides together onto this one here. And so we'll line that up at that top edge there. And we will stitch down here. And once I started stitching, I'm going to hold this piece down to the bottom of our sashing strip. Hold those raw edges together. And by keeping my finger down there, it saves me using pins. But it's just holding those two pieces together all the way to the end. So again, let's just flip that over. And I'm actually putting my seams towards the light fabric there. So let's just, and what it's allowing to happen is that the candle centers are totally open. Okay, so let's just finger press that there. The next thing we need here is another sashing strip, and then the last candle will come to the side. So again, sashing strip right sides together, and we'll align that at that very top edge of our flame block. Pop that under the needle, start stitching, and then just make sure our sashing strip meets the bottom of our long candle perfectly. So we will just stitch all the way down here. And then again, we're just going to pull that open to the right side of that sashing strip. Just push that down. And then the last one we have got to add is our short candle onto the other side of the sashing strip. So again, right sides together, align that very top edge and start stitching. And then at the bottom, just align that with perfectly with the sashing strip and start stitching down, just making sure those edges are aligned. There we go. So that is all. Just looking for my mat. I've got my smaller one here. Whoops, didn't cut that thread. So let's just take this here. We can press from the back, and I'm just going to press that seam into the center of the sashing strip there, and we'll do the same on this one here. There we go. And then if I just flip that around, I can then press that one into that centre as well, and that one there. And then we can flip it to the right side, give that a press on the top, and everything always looks so much better with a little bit of pressing. So there is our candle block, like so. So a nice straightforward block this evening. Doesn't take too long at all. Everything should fit really nicely, and the PDF is in the files now, ready for you to download, print, save. It will stay there throughout the whole of the year for people that only join the group during the year. But there is our block number 2, which is the February block, which is the candle trio. So enjoy, and I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.